Good afternoon, Mr. Serge Tchuruk. Welcome to Al-Attiyah Foundation activity.
Good afternoon to all of you.
Mr. Tchuruk, it is often said that you have brought a modern Western style of management. For instance, it is said you brought the idea of share options into France. Do you think this was true? And was it because of your early times you spent in Mobil Oil?
Yeah, well, the stock option schemes existed in France, but were not that much extensively used at that time. Maybe at very top levels of management indeed, but it was not really spread over the executive function from upside down. So I did actually use it, extend it. Interestingly enough, when I joined the Rhône-Poulenc, at that time it was a listed company with a stock price and the like. And some months after I joined, the socialist government was elected, and they did nationalize a lot of very large companies, of which Rhône-Poulenc was. So we had no such thing as a stock price. So I used what's called a phantom stock system, whereby I substituted to the traditional stock option program some of us which resembled it, but we did not require listed oil price, listed stock price. So I did so. It was used in some other state-owned companies, some of the large concerns, and then things returned to normal many years back. Having said so, what can be said today? I mean, we are seeing tremendous changes in the industry environments, which do require tremendous changes in the way we manage companies, actually. I spent 16 years with Mobil Oil when I was a youngster. And they had what I call a career development program of excellent quality, whereby they selected a few so-called high potentials, and they had a program which was called a replacement program, which was very much efficient, at which you were planning for the career of those individuals for the many years to come, not only for their career, but who would replace them when they would jump to some other position. So, I mean, this sort of program permitted us to see a lot of different fields in the company. When I stayed 16 years with Mobil Oil, I counted the other day, I changed 12 times of function within the company, each time, changing and going to somewhat different. So this is a sort of program which is needed now, because the executives have to have a wide coverage, not only of their specialty in their company, but on the way the company generally operates, and adapt to very quick changing environments. So we saw the oil industry was the first one involved in this very drastic change in the environment with the conservation issues, climate change and the like. But most industries are seeing complete change in the way they operate, what their markets are, what the rules of function are, and the like. So people have to be prepared to this. Top-level executives today, it's difficult to be a top-level executive. You don't pay sufficient attention to internet-related issues. I mean, they need to have some information technologies know-how for any type of job. So that's where we are today. We saw many changes happening in the oil industry, but I guess we'll come back to it. We are seeing, interestingly enough, due to this epidemic of COVID type of things, people are suddenly discovering the power of teleworking. You can see you can achieve a lot of things by staying home or not being in the main office of your company. And some of these will remain after the COVID issue is hopefully resolved. And it's going to change a lot of things in the way companies operate or get organized. These are examples, but there are many, many others.
Yeah. During your time as CEO of various companies, with, of course, the benefit of hindsight, are there things which you would have liked to have done or implemented, but for whatever reason you were not able to do?
Well, actually, when I got back to France after the Mobil Oil times, actually I jumped. I stayed 5 years in each large corporation, of which I was a chairman CEO. And obviously, there are many things I would like to achieve, but you know, every 5 years or so, for some reason or others, I did not resign as such, but I was called on other things, in general, in companies which were in bad shape. So if you ask me, what is it that you regret? Well, when we in the telecom environment, IT technologies, when we merged with Lucent, after the merger was effective, I had to content myself with a non-executive chairman. So I would have liked to, the difficult part in any big merger is what you do with the merged portions Definitely. Of the company. And this I could not do, obviously. I was sort of removed from day-to-day things. So you asked me what? This is one example.
Mr. Tchuruk, you were working with Mobil Oil in Europe. You changed to Rhône-Poulenc. Did you believe your future was rather with a French rather than an American company?
Well, yes and no. First of all, I liked very much Mobil Oil, and they are not part of the ExxonMobil entity, as you know. But I was proud to be the chief executive of Mobil Oil Benelux, which is Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. But you know, Mobil Oil, for good reasons, was a very centralized company. So you, as an executive of a fairly large affiliated company, you didn't have that much power to achieve things that you would like to do. You have to report to New York and the like. So at the point in time, I said, let's try to take a risk and jump to another place, which happened to be France, where all my family was residing anyway. So that's probably the reason why.
And you have headed Alcatel and Total. Which did you enjoy most? Where did you make the greatest changes, the impact, the biggest impact?
Well, before I come to this, let me say a few things maybe. When I moved to France, I moved to Rhône-Poulenc. And as I said, Rhône-Poulenc was nationalized. And after 5 years in Rhône-Poulenc, suddenly I was offered to be the CEO of a company called CDF-Chemicals, which I renamed Orkem actually, which was the chemical branch of Charbonnages de France, which was a coal agency in France. But that company was a real disaster. It was nearly broke. It had a lot of petrochemicals and specialty chemicals activity, but it was in extremely poor shape. So anyway, I was frankly not that much decided to jump and take the risk of joining this company. And one day, watching TV with my wife at 8 p.m. in the area, there was suddenly an interview of the Minister of Industry, and he said, after so many months of absent management in CDF-Chimie, Orkem, let's call it Orkem, we finally have found Mr. Tchuruk as the new CEO. And I learned I was a CEO of Orkem as a TV. It's unbelievable. So obviously, I could not say, hey, wait a little. I had to think about it. So I had to jump. So anyway. So
who was the minister at the time?
Alain Madelin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I always will remember Madeleine showing up saying, good news, after so many months of absent management, we have found one. Who is it? Me. Oh. Well, anyway, so this Orkem story turned fine. I mean, with some luck, part of the activity was petrochemical, which is a cyclical activity actually, and it helped. But I had also a lot of people from the management team, top management team of Rhône-Poulenc, who joined me to come to CDF-Chimie, Orkem. And then one day, the Minister of Industry called me for Total. I said I was very honored to be proposed to be the CEO, chairman CEO of Total. But I invested myself a lot in Orkem, and I would accept it provided the Orkem assets, which are state-controlled, were brought into Total, and Total was at that time, the government had a big stake in Total, 25%, 30%, whatever it was. They were really mastering the board. So I don't want to make a long story short, but anyway, after many things happened, they accepted the party. So what was Total at that time? Total was a company with a long past of involvement in the oil business, known everywhere in the world, with a relatively strong presence in the Middle East, as joint companies or joint operations and the like. But it was not a very good time for the company at that time. It lacked financial resources, not enough capital at all. And they had damn good project, particularly in the E&P stage, the exploration development stage and production stages, but no way to finance it. So one of the things which happened in Total is that we transformed the assets which were brought into Total by a capital increase in Total, which suddenly broke the funds for Total to achieve what it had to do in the upstream stage, which are very capital intensive, as you know.
Oh yeah.
And also at that time, company was the Total was a bit. I don't want to sound critical, but circumstances were such was the company was a bit sleepy between for some reasons and the like. So it had to be waken up. And waking up, making you've got to have a strategy which everybody understands. You have to do a lot of things, in the management structure and the like. So we made a lot of changes, including, for instance, having Total penetrate the gas industry much more than it had done before. And I believed firmly into the future of gas at that time. So that was a time, by the way, where I visited a lot with Qatar. We were involved in Qatar Gas and the like. That was a type of thing which we did. We had a strong management, which was completely new in many places. I used this career development program, which I duplicated what I had it from Mobil Oil. And Total restarted a big step forwards, and I was very, very happy in Total. I like the oil industry. I still like it today. I still try to keep abreast of what's going on. But one day, I was again contacted by government saying, look, there is a company called Alcatel Alstom, which is in trouble for
But Mr. Tchuruk, where did you think your impact was more pronounced, more important?
Frankly, Total, because there were a lot of strength in the company. It just needed revival somewhere or another. And today I'm pleased to see that Total, for instance, they have developed control in gas. Yeah. They have a career management system, which is exactly the one I had duplicated from Mobil into Total. And, I frankly, if you ask me what is it that you like in the past, I like the Total period.
Yeah. After such a high level and busy professional life, what companies and other activities do you busy yourself with now? I gather you are still on the board of many companies.
Yeah. Well, I was at the board of many companies, but to be blunt about it, I now resign of all boards of big companies. And what I do and sun power.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then, as I said, look, this Joule and limited companies was working on the process. I mean, we're a long way, making industrial, but you never know. Eh? There are ways that you see the biotechnology joining places like oil and other places where nobody would have thought they would be.
Have they thought about this company, the startup company? Have they thought about going into places where oil is playing a role?
Well, I mean, first of all, when you look at climate change, obviously CO2 is a problem. But the companies who are the most able to tackle the CO2 problems are the oil companies, or the oil producing companies, because they have know-how, they have the financial power, the huge power and the huge risks of the oil business. In the Middle East, they have the sun power and they have space. So a lot more attention should be given by oil companies, oil entities, to see how they could tackle the CO2 problem themselves.
Okay. We see that significant carbon dioxide emissions just come from a few countries and industries. Is climate change just a rich countries' problem? Some developing countries would say you created the problem, you cure it. What would you say to these countries?
Yeah, but I mean, that was, China was saying some decade ago, look at today, China is the main source of CO2 in the world. Frankly, I don't believe that's something which makes sense. If this is a universal problem, all countries, without exception, are involved. I'm glad to hear that the US will join the Paris Agreement back, which I think is good news. And I believe that, as you know, pollution is not harming where it has been generated, it's harming the planet. So it's a primary example of something which has a world scale. So things like the Paris sort of agreement should play a very significant role.
But Mr. Tchuruk, coming back to the nuclear and the importance of nuclear in France, what you were saying, do you think that this idea and promotion of climate change would hinder the continuation on the progress of the nuclear activity in France?
No, I don't believe. I just believe the contrary. Climate change will probably wake up the world to the fact that the nuclear is one very efficient way to counter the problems of emission and conservation, actually.
With the promoters of climate change, you hear them a lot criticizing nuclear,
I think it's a personal opinion, taking as such, but you asking me, I believe it's a wrong attitude.
Okay, Mr. Tchuruk, it was so interesting to hear your insights. Thank you for your time. We take the opportunity to wish you a long, happy retirement and a happy new year.